Hi, my name is Mac. I'm from the Denver metro area. I'm 39 years old, and this is Budget Therapy.
Hey, Mac. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So I guess I want to start out just by asking what brings you to the show?
I've come a long way. I'm not young as I used to be anymore. I made some mistakes when I was younger. Some decisions I made put me in debt for many years, and I want to break the cycle.
Right. So are you in a lot of debt now?
Not as much as I used to be, but I'm trying to better understand and learn budgeting so I can be a better man, a better husband, a better son, long term.
Right. So do you do any form of budgeting at this point, or is it
The old paper and pen style?
Yeah. All right. So this might be a weird question, but like, what's your relationship with money? How, like, do you watch your spending? Do you just look back at your spending and realize what you've done?
For many years for me, it was trying to play catch up from poor decisions made in my early 20s. The bad decisions, the credit card purchases, the things that I mortgaged for my future, what I thought was a good idea at the time. And I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any like background like with your family or anything like that? Does anybody have any good discipline, or do you come from a background of just like full lack of discipline and you're just trying to...
You know what? I have both sides in my family. My mother was much more budget conscious, while my father wanted to make sure he lived for today. So I've had two pretty good examples of what I didn't want necessarily, but to learn from and to break the cycle that I had when I was younger. To make smarter decisions, but to also be able to live life a little bit as well.
Okay. So overall, you have mostly examples of what not to do. Do you have anybody in your life that you kind of used as a role model to get you out of a situation, or mostly just self-help?
It's a lot of self-help, not making the same bad decisions that I did when I was younger. I lived in my car and I was kicked out of my home at a young age. So I had to find a way to not keep making the same mistakes and to not continue to mortgage the future. And I had to pay for that. And I've gotten a lot better with that over time. But if I want to have a retirement one day, to vacation and enjoy life a little bit more, I have to be more conscious. That led me to today.
Right. Yeah. Well, thanks for being here.
Thanks.
I've looked over a lot of your expenses and just where you're sitting. Your household income is about $115,000. Right now, your checking account sits at a fairly low balance. But I saw that you made a large credit card payment recently, which looked like it pretty much tapped it out. I think there's a little bit remaining, but like less than $100. And then you have another credit card that has a significant balance. Not too bad, honestly. It's just under $4,000. And then you have a loan, which I don't know exactly what that's for, but we'll get into that. But that's sitting at just under $10,000.
Yep.
So
my windows for my home.
Right. And then I saw that you have $2,500 in savings. So overall, you're not in a terrible place, especially with that large payoff. I think you paid pretty close to $5,000 off. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty hefty payment and a lot of interest. That was like 21% interest on that card.
Yeah.
So,
and the other one wasn't much better.
Right.
And I'm actually proud to say this past week, I just paid that one off. I was able to cover the remaining of the other credit card, doing this snowballed what money that I saved up, my bonus from work, a little bit of money from family for the holidays. And I was able to roll that in and pay off one card and then focused on the second card. The two highest interest things in my life at the moment.
Right.
For the moment.
When you paid off that first card, was it kind of spur of the moment because you had cash, or was it something that you planned on?
It was something I had planned on and I had been working towards. So in the last 2 years, I took that from 10,000 down to that 5,000.
Right.
All right. And that was my highest interest card. I wanted to focus on that. It needed to be done.
Yeah.
And I needed to put that behind me.
Right. Yeah, I hate paying interest.
Amen. And if I want to have a brighter future and to be able to build more and have more so I could eventually retire, travel, do the things I want to do in my life and enjoy with my wife, sacrifices need to be made. I grew up going to concerts. I've been over 250 concerts in my life. And I'm really grateful for those times and those moments. I got to experience a lot of life, but I never put anything away. Right. I never learned my lesson.
Yeah.
And I couldn't continue that and still have a home.
Yeah. And you recently purchased your home, right?
Yeah. My first house I've lived in my entire life. So going on almost 5 years ago.
That's actually awesome.
It's breaking the cycle. You know, I gotta do better.
Good accomplishment. So good job, man. Overall, you're not on a bad track. So I know recently-ish you've started a new job as well, which raised your income.
At first, it didn't.
Right. Oh, okay.
All right. But I was working in an industry that I felt was not growing. It didn't have the same outlook that it once did. And I had an opportunity to learn something and make something better myself.
Right.
All right. And I took a chance and I really have enjoyed that ability and I've learned different things because of it. And I'm really grateful for that. And now I'm doing much better and I've been able to focus, on building that stronger tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that's why budgeting for me right now is such a big focus because I'm finally getting my life in order where I want to be. But I want what's next. We always have to appreciate what we have. All right. And that credit really held me back from doing more things that I wanted to do in my life.
Well, diminishes the value of your money too with the interest on top because
You're
every $100 that you pay, only $80 of it is actually realized.
And you don't think about that.
Yeah. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. I don't think that when I read different forum posts or different things, I'm following different financial threads and Reddit, different things like that. I see a lot of people get caught off guard by deferred interest options. They don't understand a loan that they're signing up for when they get it.
And that interest rates change over time.
Right.
Even.
And they're not fixed. And,
no.
And compounding
you get screwed in other ways.
Right. And compounding is like a scary thing that nobody really fully understands. Not nobody, but a lot of people don't get it. And so they have an issue where that's not that much interest. And I'll just keep making the minimum payments. But a lot of cards are designed to keep you at a low payment, high interest, and you just drive that payment down over 200 years for a $2,000 loan. It's like it's just never ending. One thing that I would mention in regards to how your finances are going, I think I got a copy of your credit score. I think it was about 750.
770-ish.
770, okay.
Yeah.
And that's actually really high for somebody that doesn't feel like they're doing very well with their finances.
5 years ago, it was under 700.
Yeah.
And I kept chipping away.
Right.
I enjoyed concerts, but I saved that money. All right, from doing certain things. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to do those things anymore.
Right.
But
I do see that you do some of the things.
I still do because life's too short and we still need to be able to enjoy.
Right.
To have those opportunities, you sometimes have to sacrifice a little, all right, so you could still enjoy life, all right, but I didn't need to go to multiple shows.
Right.
For me, that was my entire down payment. Looking at 2020, things changed. The world changed. I couldn't do the things I wanted to do anymore, so I focused on what I could focus on and control. And I am lucky that I have a great partner that pushes me, and we focus on this together and we accomplish these goals.
Yeah.
And paying down all this debt was a major goal. I finally live in a house for the first time in my life. Now I want a chance to travel, or to be able to be maybe a nomad one day, a digital nomad, and be able to travel the world or do the things I want to do, because my parents didn't get to do that.
Right.
And I got to do that a couple of times, and it
got a taste for it.
Yeah. And you want to live your life to the fullest, and you don't want to be stressed out all the time. Debt made me stressed beyond words.
Yeah,
it felt suffocating.
When a lot of people will take on debt and they don't recognize the direct impacts because it's stretched out, right? And you don't want to fall into a trap that I see a lot of people fall into, and I'm not saying that's the direction you're going, but a lot of people fall into an issue where they take on a lot of debt based off of how much income they have, and they don't really do the math of how much these loans are actually going to be taking out of their life. And so you'll start to see that it's like a small percentage and it doesn't feel like very much. And then another credit card, and they're getting maxed out, and those minimum payments, and they're living the high life for a short stint. And then it starts to catch up, and like 50-60% of their income is going to credit card payments, and they're in a sinking ship, right?
You can't breathe.
Right. And especially with like rent and groceries, everything's like up. And so you're in a situation where those are fluctuating up in the percentages that they're taking from you, from your principal, but then also everything else is going up. And so if you're in a situation where you're just overwhelmed with credit card debt, it's hard to see any light at the end of a tunnel, right? So like you mentioned before, the snowball method is a great way to go. You shifted a little bit because you went with the highest interest first, but not necessarily going against the snowball method, but it sounds like that was like your decision point was that, not whether it was the smallest or largest. It was just focused on the interest amount, right?
The interest amount monthly bugged me.
Yeah.
The amount that I'm like, oh, I could have put this towards something else.
Yeah. Anytime you start to like recognize what that number means, it then becomes a disease that you need to get rid of.
And that's how I felt. And I needed a change.
Right. From how I'm seeing some of your money spread out, I see transfers to your wife about every month. I can't say the exact amount. I think it's around $1,100 or something. I assume that's around mortgage and things like that.
Yeah.
So you guys don't combine finances.
So we have different responsibilities being a team. So a decision was made a few years ago that she would handle more of the budgeting aspect because I was struggling. I put myself in these positions, and she wanted to help relieve some of that burden, some of that stress, that a little bit of that suffocation, to help with the budgeting. She's good at what she does, but to be a better partner long term, I need to learn that for myself. And that's why I wanted to come to budget therapy, to become a better man, a better husband, and to understand the wrongs and become better, and to be able to do things that we couldn't before.
So let's get into some actionable discussion. Like I said, the checking account right now is a fairly low balance, and then you have about $2,500 in your savings, and you have, I think it's about $14,000 in debt total. The credit card for $4,000, it's about 21.5%, somewhere around there, and the loan is 7%. Obviously, you're focusing on the higher interest first, right? The thing that you need to generally focus on is the higher interest, right? So you're already on that right path. But something that you can do, and this isn't a recommendation for everyone, but you've taken control over your spending. For the most part, there's some stuff in here that I'm like, slap some hands, but it's not that bad. So
we're always going to have that, right?
Right. There's always ways to nitpick. But the general approach that I have to budgeting is that you have to give yourself some lenience. Like, you have to give yourself the ability to mess up a little bit, so you don't create the habit of messing up a lot because you keep
consistency.
Yeah,
essentially?
because like for instance, like a little bit from my side of my background is I came from the same situation of like I didn't have a lot of good examples, different things like that, but I found myself spending money to be happy, find ways out of hating my job, this, that, and the other, whatever it was. I would just find ways to get out of it by spending my rent money, and then worrying about rent when future Nick has to worry about it. That guy has a lot of problems. It's not mine, right? And so,
Sure.
I had a lot of habits around doing that. And so when I first started budgeting, I failed miserably because a budget just tells me how much money I have in my account. Oh, look, that's how much money I have in my account. Why do I need a budget, right? I know what bills are coming out, different things like that, but all of that I wasn't tracking any of it, and I wasn't really tracking my spending. And so I fell into the trap where I'd spend a little bit more than I should in each category that I shouldn't be spending from. And then at the end of the month, it would catch up to me, or over time, it would catch up to me, whatever time frame that goes on. And so what I found in that type of, when I think back in those types of things, I start realizing that I put myself into a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, because I'm stealing from myself. And like you get leery about inviting people over to your home that you don't trust, so they're not going to steal from you, right? But somehow it's okay for you to do it to yourself.
That's self-abuse.
Right. Like you're just straight up attacking yourself constantly.
Right.
And it's just okay because it's just you.
It's a different form of harm.
Right.
Yeah.
But people in general, coming from my experience and my views on it, is that you have a disconnect from money. Because money it's nothing. It's a trade for something, right? And you don't really recognize the time that you're spending to earn those pennies. And then those pennies turn into a couple of bucks. And then you're like, okay, finally I can go give this guy all of my bucks, and then I get an Xbox game, whatever it is. And so you keep trading all of this stuff out. And it's just like a slight abstract from understanding that it's just like, no, it's my food, water, a place to sleep. And so when you put yourself into a situation where you're constantly taking that money away from yourself, you don't realize the long-term impacts that you're putting on yourself and the stress that you're carrying from a day-to-day over things that you've done over the past months or years. And it's compounding, just like the interest.
Right.
But like it grows. And the longer you do it, the failure to act is compounding because you don't have good savings at a younger age. You continue that into older age, and then you start deciding that you need to have a savings. If you just had addressed this as a younger guy stepping out into the workforce, where would you be? Who would you be at this point? There's a couple options that I would recommend for your current situation with the credit card, especially, is you're paying 22% interest, right? And you have saved about half that. And obviously it's a little bit more, but you can't just empty your whole bank account to pay off half a credit card. So
sure. Emergencies happen.
Right.
Life happens.
And that's the thing is that you want to generally build up an emergency fund so you don't have to put on a credit card. But if you have to use a credit card, then it's there. But you don't want to have to lean on it just because you're like, oh, I need some Band-Aids. I don't have $6. And you put that on the credit card. You don't want a
Band-Aid to fix.
Yeah, you don't want a Band-Aid
and then
the
pay
Band-Aids.
for it.
Yeah. And
it's going to infect, and then you're going to pay more.
Right.
You're going to pay for it.
Yeah. And in this scenario, 22%.
Right.
Depending on how long you take to pay it off. But regardless of other situations, just focused on yours right here, you have about $4,000 on this credit card at 22% interest. So what you can do is, especially with your high credit score, you can apply for a credit card with a 0 interest balance transfer. And have you heard of these? Have you seen these?
Heard of, but here, explain.
Okay. So in short, obviously there's 6,000 pages of disclosures and different agreements you have to sign when you sign up for a credit card. So I'm not going over all of that.
Well, firstborn or anything like that, but
right.
Sure.
But in general, you're going to pay 3 to 5% balance transfer fee up front.
And would that be on what I owe now?
Whatever you transfer over.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So if you transfer $4,000, it'll be 3 to 5% of that $4,000 that you owe up front. Okay. But they put you on a term. It's usually 12 up to 21 months that I generally see available to people. And that's zero interest. It's not deferred interest in most cases. I haven't seen any deferred interest, so I can't say for sure that they don't exist. I just haven't seen them. But they're zero interest for that duration. And then what you would do in this situation is you do the balance transfer, pay that 3 or 5%, whatever it may be. That is not a compounding interest rate. That's an upfront fee that's not interest. And then you pay that, you transfer that money. Your money is now at zero interest for that duration. So now 100% of your money is going towards a principal instead of a compounding interest rate that you're paying down and accruing.
Every month.
Right.
Understood.
And instead of saving all of the money and then lump sum at the end, paying it off and paying all that interest along the way, all that interest just starts to disappear. See what I'm saying? And so the approach that I like to take is where you pay the minimum balance on the zero interest and pay yourself the maximum balance to pay it off by that time frame. So say it's 12 months. Say the minimum payment's $20 a month. You're not going to pay $1,000 in 12 months with $20 a month, right? But you'll want to pay yourself the full amount of whatever that is, $85 minus the payments. And then you'll keep that in your account that you don't touch. You're saving that. And what I saw in your account, it looked like it was 3 or 4% in your savings that you earn on interest. So all the money that you're not paying to the credit card, you're holding on to, is a short-term emergency fund.
Okay.
Because if you have a situation, you can utilize that money, and then you have to stretch yourself a little bit thinner to cover that for the rest of the year. But you can also do another balance transfer if you had to at the end of that. At the end of the year, you'll have that full $800, $900 left of that credit card sitting in your savings that has been accruing that interest. It's not a ton, but it's something.
Right.
And so that money is earning money, and you're not paying any interest on that credit card. And then you're paying them the minimum just to keep it moving along. And then on how I generally do it is a month before. On the 11th month, I do the full payment amount. Make sure it says zero for the rest of that month.
Right.
And then I know that I don't have any interest coming out for the rest of whatever. And so that would save you, I don't know exactly what 22% is of 4,000, but it would save you that much money. Potentially, obviously, you have to take in calculations of payments and different things, but regardless, it's going to save you a bunch of interest. And I know that the other loan is at a 7% interest. And it's not actually that big of a loan. $10,000 is not that big.
And it was 16, when I first started it. So
Right.
it's
How long have you had it?
I think almost 3 years now.
Okay. So you haven't been making excessive payments. You've just been
Not
making...
excessive. I was focusing on the ones that were accruing
Right.
the most interest at the time.
The smartest way to
because
go, right?
It was cringeworthy, and I wanted that money back.
Yeah.
You get angry at yourself over time.
Right. And so you can do the exact same thing with this.
Okay.
You can do another zero balance transfer. And then you give yourself 12 months or whatever it is. And this one being a little bit more, double and a bit more than the credit card, obviously you'll just focus on paying down as much as you can, right? At the end of that term, again, you can do another balance transfer as long as you keep your credit score up, which as long as you just continue doing what you're doing. Right. But you can do a zero balance transfer or zero interest balance transfer on that again after the 12 months, 21 months or whatever it is, and move it. You'll have to pay the 3 or 5% again.
Sure.
But that 3-5% plus the 3 and 5% combined is less than what you're going to be paying in interest over the course of multiple years.
Right.
And so plus because it's a compounding interest. And so
it hurts.
Yeah. And so so that's how I would approach the loans, because I'm not opposed to having any debts. I'm opposed to paying interest on them. And I also don't like paying those balance transfer fees. But when you're in a situation where you are paying a lot of interest, that's, to me, a much better option.
Right.
Yeah. That's how I would tackle that. I would keep the money that you have in your savings account and just continue to grow, right? And have a target amount that you need by the dates, and then focus on creating a budget that allows you to have that full amount. You don't touch that money unless you absolutely have to. And then it's ready. It's painful to send a company, as you just experienced. It's painful to send $5,000 because you're like,
the things I could have done.
Right. But it's the things that you did that got you to that.
Right.
So
I had to pay the piper, literally.
Right.
And it hurt.
Yeah.
But now I'm focused on not doing it again.
Right. And so that's the thing, is that once you get past it, then you start having, once you open up that amount of income, one, your self-worth, for me, it increased when all of a sudden my money's worth feels like double, because half my income's going to debt payments, and now it's not. So a lot of things that you have to like recognize is that when you get to that point, you have to continue down the path of making plans for your money. And I'm not a huge fan of saving money into a bucket, like just here's my savings, and that's a giant wad of cash.
Sure, you want your money to accrue. Right?
Well, it's more about planning for each piece. And so I don't have money just sitting in savings. I have money planned and pinned for different long-term trips. I know that eventually I'm going to have to replace my 20-year-old vehicle, and maybe in another 20 years or something, because it's going to live forever. But
we can only hope so, right?
But I have to plan for that because it's going to come, and then I'm going to have to deal with that payment. I'm going to have to deal with that, the down payment plus the payment, and the insurance changes, right? So a lot of my savings isn't just a bucket full of savings. It's multiple things that I have planned, and say something else happens, the common example I were to give is break your leg or whatever. You do something something that causes a riff. I can pull from that vehicle savings, knowing that it's just like, that's a nice to have category. And the more I have for it, the better it will be at a later point. But right now I need something, and you didn't really plan for a broken leg. Obviously, you should have some buffers put in place for these types of situations. But I'm saying that, like, if something catastrophic were to happen that kind of expands outside of your safety buffer, then you have things that kind of work for you.
Because life happens.
Right.
No, I think that would be the responsible thing, and something that I hope that I can now have that I didn't before.
Yeah. And once you get to a point where you start micromanaging your money a little bit, there's a lot of ways to automate this through apps and spreadsheets, different things like that. But the thing that you really want to focus on is making sure that when you're doing your budgeting, you make it as easy as possible, very hands-off process, unless you just love spending hours doing something that you don't want to do. But yeah, you just want to make it as minimal of a process as possible. So I maintain mine probably 2 times a day for maybe 5 minutes at a time. And yeah, I like to do it daily because I don't want to wait weekly and then do it for 45 minutes at a time.
Sure. And the pen and paper way is that old way, and there's got to be a better way to do things.
Right.
There's 5 minutes is a very small price to pay in such a busy world that we live in.
And, not that we don't have the time, because,
I spent
4 hours doom scroll.
5 minutes is a small price to pay.
It keeps you on top of it.
Right.
It helps keep you on top of it.
And it keeps you honest.
Right. Another reason that I don't focus on it like weekly or monthly at the end of the month or something, if you keep on it daily, you know what's in your buckets for spending, basically.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And so if you're overspending on something and you need to reel it in a little bit. And
Great example. Yeah.
Right. And then so it's not a surprise at the end of the week that could send me down a spiral of, now I need to start spending.
Right.
Because once you start ripping off, like you just start going down that path, you find excuses to keep going.
Right. You find it's easier and you don't think about it.
Yeah. It's like, I'm already in misery, so why not just keep it like at maximum.
But I felt that misery, and we're not doing it anymore. This sounds like a much better way to manage said money.
Right. From there, like I said, you don't have a lot of necessarily problems with spending. I saw there's...
Well, I do some collecting, and it's something I still share with like certain family members or my wife. So yeah, I have a small budget that I keep for myself. I can lock it down a little more, and I should.
Right.
But I want to be able to share a little bit of life with my family, my parents, while they're still here, with my wife, to enjoy a little bit, to remind myself of who I am, and to continue to make memories. Right. But I know I could reel it in. I'll be real, sure. But it's healthy to have hobbies. Right. I've learned. Yeah. It keeps you honest. It keeps you healthy. It gives you purpose.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's definitely...
I can find purpose in other things.
Yeah, spending 10 minutes a day on budgeting,
right.
Like, gives you a little bit of purpose.
You know, that traveling I want to do right. with my wife that I promise her.
Right.
We're going to do it.
Yeah, and I think that...
got to take those steps.
The micromanaging your budget is actually critical in the journey, because obviously you can set up automations around all of it so you don't have to be on top of every single transaction, because automation will handle it because you set that up. But the overall thing that you need to like be aware of is actual incoming and outgoing expenses. Like, you have to be aware of what you're doing, because you'll start to make larger mistakes the less you're involved with every transaction going in and out. And so you set yourself up for kind of like whiplash, to like, it'll come back to you all at once. And you won't really see it, but the cracks will start forming. That's where a lot of things, a lot of different apps and different things that I've seen throughout the years, they offer a lot of projections of, oh, if you just do this, you'll have this when you're 100 years old. And it's like, okay. And then if you saved an extra $1 a day, you'd have this much more, because it's exponential, but it's over like 70 years or whatever it is that you're going.
Right.
And so it's not super helpful, because it doesn't help you plan for right now. And right now is the only time that matters, when you don't, because you're not planning for the future if you're not planning for right now.
Right.
So you need to plan around that money that's going in and out of your account right this minute, before you can start planning for extravagance, or you have a trip, or doing anything. You don't plan for a trip. A lot of people, let's have a friend's vacation, and then you'll see like 10 people were invited. People slowly start dropping off as it gets closer.
Sure.
And then the day of, and then it's 2 people going on this trip.
Oh yeah.
Because
I
they
did a destination wedding. You know, I can relate to how that, you know.
Yeah. And it's planned extravagance, but like you don't plan for today, so you're never going to make that. And so the people that do show up, a lot of times, just got paid. So it's their future problem for their rent. But they're on this trip and they're going to enjoy it the best they can. But in that whole time, they're feeling that they're ignoring it. They're getting drunk to suppress it probably. But like, there's a lot of feelings that they're ignoring about the stress that they just put themselves into by even coming on this trip that they can't afford.
Right.
Because they just spent their rent money. And now they're like, oh, I got to pick up side gigs. I'm doing whatever I can, work overtime if I can get it, all that kind of stuff. And it's just like...
And there's nothing wrong with a side hustle either.
No. But when you put yourself into a situation where you're not going to actually make it, and you have to rely on a side gig that may or may not get you out of that situation.
It's not guaranteed.
Yeah,
that's totally fair.
It's a problem. The overall goal of what I'm saying is that it's just like... It's good to have goals. It's good to have lofty goals, but we have to focus on what's doing the best thing for right this minute, and
what we can control for now.
Right. And it sounds maybe a little daunting to micromanage every single transaction going in and out, but through automations, everything that you can do that route, once you set that up and it's triggering, you're not micromanaging that aspect. You obviously audit and you check to make sure things are going into the right and whatever's, but that's 10 times easier than balancing a checkbook.
Which is still something that they should have taught you in school.
Well,
I wish I had learned that one my younger self.
Well, but
you the automation aspect, that's exciting. That's new. And I can't wait to hear more about that.
Right.
I want to budget in a trip. I just had my anniversary. I'm coming up on 10 years.
Mhm.
I want to be able to give my wife something special.
Right.
And I need to budget that. And I have the time to do it, but the time is now, as we talked about. All right. How can I budget in said trip? What tips do you have for someone like me that didn't always plan for tomorrow? And I'm trying to learn that today. I want to do something special for my wife in the next year and a half, right, for our 10-year. So what suggestions do you have to help save for vacations, or suggestions to help in that case?
I think that in short, the stuff that we've talked about by transferring some of this money over and possibly it puts you into a little bit of a shaky situation depending on job security, all these other things. Everything can be a gamble, right?
Yep.
And so I can't go into every variable of what could happen in your situation.
Right.
But as long as things keep current where they're at, what you can do is focus on putting that money into the zero interest cards.
Okay.
Plan a trip with a certain limit of money that's going to include all of your airfare, hotel, food, and all the excess stuff that you do on the side, right? And then you set that amount, and I'm going to say $10,000 for that, right? So you're going to set apart $10,000. That's going to eat away of what you're saving on paying these off on time. And so that's fine as long as you plan for that. So you can plan on paying just the minimum payments on what one of the balance transfers, and that's all you're going to pay. And then at the 11th month of the 12th month, you're going to then swap it to another card, and you're going to have that cash set aside to pay that transfer fee again. Okay. So that gives you 2 years to like really stretch out these amounts. And then by doing that, then now it does put you into, elongated loan repayment time. But if you're going to take the trip regardless and you don't change anything about what you're doing right now, you're going to have probably all or most of this debt still at that time.
Right.
With interest. So
I don't want that.
right. And so it's like a situation where it's just like you can do nothing and just continue forward and then just start saving for it. And then obviously there's different things that we'll talk about like after the show, or cutting down some of the overspending that we could consolidate a little bit. Sure. But that's not going to get you to the goal. It's going to be a mixture of the different approaches. And then based off what we see, based on your credit score and all the different things, and see the different options, then we'll make the best decision at that point. But these are just suggestions off the cuff. So in general, the approach that we're going to take.
Sounds great. That's how the cookie crumbles.
That's how the therapy's budget. Thanks for being on the show, Matt.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and we'll get into the budgeting as soon as we get off the camera here.
Sounds great.
Cool. Cut.